You ever notice how lies don't usually arrive in some big dramatic explosion? Nope. Most of the time, they show up in the most boring ways imaginable. In my case, it was a Chase Sapphire preferred envelope that kicked this all off, a generic reward summary tucked between an oil change coupon and a Bed Bath & Beyond flyer. If I hadn't been nursing a hangover and sorting the mail out of pure boredom, I probably wouldn't have even opened it. But I did, and there it was. 68,000 airline miles redeemed last month. For context, I hadn't been on a plane in 6 months. Business class to Vegas? Seattle? Cabo? That sure as hell wasn't me. So I stared at the statement like it was some ancient script. My wife, Clara, did most of our travel bookings through work. She's a senior strategy consultant at some big-name firm with 3 initials, the kind where everyone wears the same navy blazer and talks in bullet points. She's been rising through the ranks so fast I wouldn't be surprised if she floated past gravity next. Her travel was constant: client meetings, seminars, conferences. Half the time she'd text me from the airport about another last-minute itinerary change, like she was doing me a favor by even letting me know. But 68,000 points in 1 month? That wasn't just the usual red-eye to Detroit or some cushy resort conference. That was a vacation. Or 3. And funny enough, I didn't recall her mentioning any recent personal travel. So either she'd turned into the Tooth Fairy or someone else was cashing in on her perks. I didn't say anything that night. I just watched her slice into her lemon chicken, sipping that Sauvignon Blanc like nothing was off. She was humming along to some Spotify dinner jazz, and I sat across from her with my mouth in a polite smile and my brain in DEFCON 2. See, I've always been the fix-it-quietly type. I don't shout. I don't throw plates. But I do remember things. And Clara had made a fatal mistake a few months back. She'd logged into her firm's travel dashboard on my laptop during some last-minute scramble. Password saved. Cache intact. God bless Chrome for making betrayal so damn accessible. Next morning, I waited until she left for her Q1 strategic review in Houston, air quotes doing heavy lifting there, and opened the laptop. Logged in, took a breath. Then I saw it. 4 bookings in the last month. 1 to Miami, 1 to San Diego, 1 to Vancouver, 1 to Cancun. Here's the punchline. None of them had client names attached. Just personal travel, executive tier override. And all on the weekends. Now, maybe you're thinking, maybe she's just taking solo trips to relax. Yeah, that's what I thought too. Right before I looked at the room bookings. Each destination listed a hotel. And each hotel had a booking for 2 guests. Okay, Clara, now we're getting somewhere. I took screenshots, printed everything, made a neat little folder labeled for review. Then I started thinking back. Who the hell would she be traveling with? Clara had always spoken about one guy at work with a special kind of venom. Trent Marlowe, regional director, West Coast. Married. Incompetent, she said. Misogynistic, she claimed. The human equivalent of a quarterly performance review. Naturally, I Googled him first. And wouldn't you know it, Trent had posted a sunny Instagram photo from a Cancun rooftop bar just 2 weeks ago. Different angle, same timestamp as Clara's team dinner selfie from her company's Slack. Matching cloud formation. Identical wine glasses. Different filters. Same damn rooftop. I laughed. Out loud. Because it was so insulting how lazy it all was. Let's pause here. I'm not some perfect husband. I snore. I forget birthdays. I once shrunk her $300 cashmere sweater and tried to pass it off as a new fashion trend. But you know what I never did? Lie about loving her. Or stick my genitals in the middle of a corporate org chart. So now I had motive. I had method. I had Trent. But more importantly, I had restraint. Because the average guy, he would have confronted her right there. Screamed. Demanded answers. Maybe even cried. But me? Nah. I played dumb. The next few weeks, I became the most agreeable man in America. I cleaned the gutters. Bought her favorite oat milk. Even drove her to the airport with a smile, waving like some sitcom dad while she lied through her teeth about a Seattle engagement. But back home, I got to work. See, Clara had always thought I was some harmless accountant. Boring. Predictable. The guy who checks reviews before buying socks. What she forgot was that I worked in financial forensics. And once you've traced a $10 million fraud ring through fake shell corporations in Jersey, you better believe tracking a couple lovebirds through Delta Miles and Marriott bookings is light work. The deeper I dug, the worse it got. Text records. Slack DMs. A shared Google Calendar labeled T&M Strategy Syncs. Cute. And then I found it. A digital receipt tucked inside her Google Drive trash from a jewelry store in Vancouver. 18K rose gold necklace. Custom engraving. Make time stand still, T. I almost clapped. Trent, you romantic bastard. I printed that too. Added it to the growing revenge folder, which by now was thick enough to qualify for a tax deduction. Now, I wasn't just angry. I was inspired. Because while Clara was playing hotshot consultant in some Ocean View suite, I was planning something a little more public. Something billboard-sized. But we'll get to that. First, I needed to wait for the perfect opportunity. And it came faster than I expected. Her firm's quarterly leadership conference, hosted right here in town. Every director, every executive, and best of all, Trent would be there, which meant so would his wife. Now it was just a matter of execution. Because if Clara thought she was good at strategy, she was about to meet the master. You ever see a spider just sit there in the corner of the room, completely still, like it's meditating? That's what I became. A domestic predator with a mortgage and a printer. I moved through the next 2 weeks like nothing was wrong, like I wasn't building a missile out of pixels and proof. Clara, bless her blissful ignorance, helped pick the wine for a dinner party we were hosting the night before her firm's leadership summit. She even kissed me twice in one evening. Must have been guilt, or just adrenaline from the affair. Who knows? Who cares? The dinner party was a quiet hit. A couple neighbors, one of her junior associates, and even our accountant, Neil, who I'm convinced is just a walking bottle of antacids in a tie. Clara talked shop with her assistant, chattering about synergy misfires and organizational realignment, while I smiled, poured wine, and nodded like I hadn't seen her booking joint massages for 2 in Miami. She never noticed how long I stared at her wrist when she gestured mid-conversation. The same wrist that no longer wore the silver bracelet I got her on our anniversary. She'd replaced it with a daintier gold piece, something more her style, she claimed. I'd seen the receipt. I knew exactly who bought it. The next morning, Clara left early for her big day. She wore her favorite Navy power suit, the one with the sharp shoulders and a collar that made her look like a CEO ready to fire someone for breathing wrong. I watched her leave through the kitchen window, coffee in hand, heels clicking down the driveway like she was walking into destiny. Once she was gone, I pulled the folder from behind the bookshelf. The contents were now categorized, printouts of hotel confirmations, matched against her fake itineraries. Text exchanges with Trent, most of which looked like rejected dialogue from a bad Hallmark film. Screenshots of social posts, airport check-ins, all time-stamped and neatly annotated in the margins. The piece de resistance? A 4-minute voice recording from her hotel room in Cancun, which, thanks to a dumb, accidental iCloud backup from her phone to our shared account, I'd found buried in the audio memos app. A little love note she'd recorded for Trent after their second night together. She even whispered his name. I played it 3 times. Not out of pain, but out of fascination. She sounded so sincere, like I was eavesdropping on a version of her that never even existed in our marriage. Now to the real fun. I had 3 things going for me: access to data, a wicked sense of humor, and a friend named Marcus who ran a local billboard leasing company. Marcus and I had known each other since college. Back then, he was the guy who sold fake student IDs and bootleg concert shirts out of his dorm. Now, he owned half the prime real estate along the downtown business corridor. If you've ever driven past a massive image of a toothy lawyer or an obnoxious mattress sale banner, odds are good Marcus was behind it. I gave him a call. "Robbie," he answered, far too cheerful for someone who routinely advertised car accident lawsuits. "What can I do for you, man? I need 3 downtown boards. Full week. Starting tonight." "Ooh, last minute. What's the message? Birthday thing? Marriage proposal? Something like that," I said. "It's a professional thank you message." Corporate," he asked, dropping into his business voice. "You could say that. I'll send you the files within the hour." He paused. "Should I be worried about what I'm putting up?" "Only if you're allergic to irony." I mocked up 3 ads on my home office computer. Simple white text on a sleek, dark blue background. The exact color palette of Clara's consulting firm. Helvetica font. Clean. Professional. Looked like the kind of motivational crap you'd see in a corporate retreat slideshow. Except mine read. "Client feedback. Thanks to Clara T. Our nights were truly unforgettable. 5 stars for exceptional overnight service. TM. And then, smaller below. Accelerate performance. Reimagine boundaries. I nearly cried from laughing. I sent the designs to Marcus with the green light to upload at 11 p.m. sharp. He confirmed everything was good to go. 3 major locations, one directly facing Clara's office tower, another outside the conference hotel, and the last at the exit ramp leading from the airport. You know, where Trent's wife would be driving in from the suburbs. Timing, as always, is everything. The next part of the plan was simply to wait. By 8 a.m., the billboards would be live. By 8:15, Clara would be in an Uber, heading into downtown. By 8:20, the first texts would start pinging. And by 9 o'clock? Well, that's when the firm's managing partner would be giving his opening speech in front of a room full of executives, all with a perfect view of the conference hall windows and the glowing, 24-foot-high tribute to Clara's overnight performance. Now, I'm not saying I wanted her career to implode. I'm saying if a house is built on a lie, I don't feel bad when the termites show up. That night, I didn't sleep much. I kept pacing, rereading the texts, rechecking the file folder like a chef triple-checking the ingredients before baking a bomb. Every so often I'd look out the window, imagining the exact moment she'd look up and see her own name glowing in LED, framed by skyscrapers and shame. She didn't come home that night. Probably stayed at the conference hotel. Around midnight, I poured a scotch, watched a rerun of Shark Tank, listened to the silence of a house that used to feel like ours. I wasn't sad. That had worn off. What I felt now was the calm of someone who'd just cut the last thread on a parachute and watched the liars still smile while they plummeted. I knew tomorrow would be chaos. But tonight was peace. I woke up the next morning before the sun even bothered to show its face. Didn't need an alarm. My body was humming with that weird kind of calm you only get right before a storm. The kind where your heart's steady, but your brain's sipping coffee made of spite. Clara texted me at 6:58 a.m. Clara, big day today. Wish me luck, smiley face. I stared at it for a second, like it was some kind of museum artifact. A smiley face. She added a smiley face. Amazing how people can weaponize emojis without even realizing it. I didn't reply. Didn't need to. She was about to get all the luck she deserved. At exactly 7:04 a.m., my phone lit up again. This time, it was Marcus. Marcus, billboards are live. She's gonna love them. I chuckled and poured myself some coffee. Not from the usual pot, mind you. This morning called for the French press. The special one Clara bought during her European aesthetic phase, the one she insisted gave the brew more depth. She was right. That coffee had layers. By 7:30, I was back at my computer, logged into LinkedIn. It was time to watch the fallout in real time. I searched for Clara's firm, RKS Advisory. Their executive leadership page had all the major players lined up in stiff gray suits, arms crossed, eyes like they'd been trained to not blink under scrutiny. And there she was, third row down, second from the left. Clara Thomas, Senior Strategy Director, North American Innovation Markets. Bold title for someone who couldn't innovate her way out of a 3-star hotel room without leaving behind digital breadcrumbs and bathrobe selfies. I refreshed the page. Nothing yet. Then, like clockwork, the messages started rolling in. 8:03 a.m. Text from my friend Ben, who works downtown. Ben, dude. I'm looking at a billboard with Clara's name on it. Is this a joke? 8:05 a.m. Another text, this time from a blocked number. Unknown. You sick F asterisk CK. You'll pay for this. I'm guessing that was Trent. 8:08 a.m. Clara again. Clara, Rob. Call me now. I didn't. I had a front row seat to the implosion and popcorn in the microwave. Why ruin it with conversation? Meanwhile, on LinkedIn, the firm's page had suddenly switched to under maintenance. That was fast. Someone must have panicked. But too late. Twitter, X, had already picked it up. A trending hashtag was gaining steam. Hashtag overnight consultant. People were posting photos of the billboards with captions like, "When your consulting firm promises transparency and delivers. 5 stars for Clara. Wonder what the bonus structure is for after-hours service." It was beautiful. A symphony of public relations death by 1,000 memes. At 8:20 a.m. sharp, I knew Clara would be stepping into the glass-walled conference room on the 15th floor of the Fairmont downtown. You could practically see the hotel from the billboard outside, the largest of the 3. I imagined her walking in, coffee in hand, ready to impress a room full of executives, and then stopping mid-step as her eyes landed on her name lit up like a low-budget Times Square tribute. I imagined the color draining from her face, her lips parting slightly, the mental math spinning. She'd know it was me. She might not know how I'd done it, but there'd be zero doubt who had. She called again. I let it ring. By 9 a.m., my inbox was a dumpster fire. Emails from mutual friends, confused ex-colleagues, even Clara's sister, who always thought I was a little too quiet. She asked if I was okay. I didn't answer that either. Because really, what was I supposed to say? Yeah, Lisa, I'm great. Just vaporized your sister's career using nothing but public records and passive-aggressive design skills. Around 9:15, someone knocked on my door. It was my neighbor, Jenny, the retired teacher with a nose for drama and binoculars allegedly for birdwatching. Rob, she said wide-eyed, tell me that Billboard downtown isn't about your Clara. I smiled politely. Must be another Clara T. Seems like a common name. Jenny squinted, trying to read my face like it was a quiz she'd forgotten to study for. I just raised my coffee and said, gotta run, early call, before closing the door. Inside, I finally sat down. I opened the text Clara had sent earlier, the one from 8:08 a.m. Clara, Rob, what did you do? My phone's blowing up. You're going to ruin everything. I typed a reply, stared at it, deleted it. Then I typed something else. Me. I didn't ruin anything. I just turned the lights on. I hit send. 3 seconds later, the typing bubbles appeared. Then they vanished. Then came a longer message. Clara, please, can we talk? Not over text. I'll come home after this. We need to fix this. I laughed. Out loud. Because the audacity of that sentence deserved a standing ovation. Fix this. Fix what? Her PR problem? Her marriage? Her track record of lying and scheming and sleeping with her way into the boardroom? I waited an hour. Watched more tweets roll in. Someone had made a TikTok lip-syncing to her love note audio, which I hadn't leaked, but clearly someone else had found. Maybe a staffer. Maybe someone in IT. Either way, it had nearly 40,000 views by lunchtime. At 12:30, Clara showed up. I heard the garage door open, her heels on the steps, her knock on the bedroom door, like we were suddenly formal now. I opened it. She looked like she'd walked through a sandstorm. Hair askew, suit wrinkled, eyes red-rimmed from crying or rage. Hard to tell. Rob, she said, voice cracking. Why? I looked at her. Really looked at her. And then I said, you ever try saying sorry before why? Just once. She blinked, thrown off by the question. This is overkill. No, Clara. Overkill was 6 hotels, 3 fake conferences, a custom necklace, and a man whose wife you smiled at every holiday party like you weren't banging him in San Diego. Her face hardened. You don't understand. You never paid attention to how unhappy I've been. And instead of telling me, you wrote your midlife crisis in first-class miles. She opened her mouth, closed it. I walked past her, into the kitchen. She followed. I can fix this, she said. We can do damage control. Issue a statement. Say it was a prank. You really think this is about optics? I turned, set my mug down. Clara, you cheated. For months. Lied. And the only reason you want to fix this is because the people who used to clap when you walked into a room are now looking at you like you farted during communion. She glared at me. So what? You just blow up my life and walk away. I smiled. No, Clara. I walk away before I blow it up. You were still cheating after I'd already packed the metaphorical dynamite. She stood there, speechless. I turned, opened the drawer, and pulled out a manila envelope. Divorce papers. Signed. Sealed. Her jaw clenched. You think you've won? I stepped closer. Oh no. I just stopped playing. She took the envelope, arms stiff. And then, just as she turned to leave, I added, by the way, did you know Trent's wife sits on the board's ethics committee? She stopped cold. And unlike you, she's very good at spreadsheets. I'm guessing she'll find the Cancun expenses enlightening. Then I walked away, humming the theme to Succession, because it just felt right. Let the next phase begin. Clara didn't say another word. Not when I dropped the ethics committee bomb. Not when she opened her car door with hands shaking like she was trying to unpick a lock. And not even when the tires of her luxury sedan screeched out of the driveway like she was fleeing a crime scene. Which, in a way, she was. I stood in the doorway for a long moment after she left, just breathing in the silence. The kind of quiet that comes after you detonate something massive. Peaceful, sterile, a little surreal. Like the air didn't know whether to settle or scatter. But me? I knew exactly what came next. The fallout was already rolling. By that afternoon, I had a voicemail from Trent's wife, Angela. Calm, controlled. The kind of voice you only hear from women who've been professionally disappointed by powerful men for decades and have learned how to weaponize dignity. Rob, she said, I just saw everything. Thank you for the clarity. I'll be in touch. Short, precise, no questions, just promise. That night, I went to a bar 2 towns over, somewhere Clara had never been, where nobody knew me as the quiet husband with the corporate wife. I ordered a scotch and sat at the corner booth, scrolling through the reactions like I was reading fan letters. Because that's what it felt like. Applause, just in text form. A Reddit thread had popped up under r/corporate drama titled, When Your Work Wife Becomes the Main Event. Over 2,000 comments. Theories. Memes. Somebody had even photoshopped Clara into a perfume ad. Introducing Deceit by Clara T. It lingers long after the trust is gone. I almost spit my drink. Still, I knew better than to celebrate too early. Public humiliation is loud and satisfying, but it doesn't guarantee closure. People like Clara, they don't fold. They pivot. And pivot she did. The next day, a formal statement went out from RKS Advisory, posted on their website like some corporate eulogy. It read, The company has been made aware of inappropriate personal disclosures involving one of our employees, which do not reflect the values or mission of RKS Advisory. Effective immediately, Clara Thomas is on administrative leave pending internal review. Not a firing. Not yet. But it was coming. They just needed a few more days to run the PR script. Let her resign voluntarily. Keep some dignity. Maybe even shuffle her off to a consulting position somewhere else where the scandal hadn't hit. I knew that game. I'd seen it before. What they didn't expect, what she didn't expect, was that I wasn't done. See, up until now, the whole thing had been reactive. She cheated. I exposed it. Boom. Game over, right? Wrong. This wasn't just about revenge anymore. It was about legacy. Clara had always loved being seen as the power couple. She liked the illusion, the dinners, the charity galas, the LinkedIn posts where we were humbled to support our community. And if she got to step on a few spines to climb her ladder, well, so be it. But there's something poetic about burning that illusion so thoroughly that nobody remembers the ladder, only the ashes. So I took it a step further. Remember that iCloud backup I mentioned? It wasn't just audio memos and screenshots. Clara had a nasty little habit of using her notes app as a digital diary. Mostly affirmations, journaling exercises, the kind she got from those overpriced mindfulness retreats she expensed as professional development. But tucked between bullet lists about work goals and quotes from Brené Brown was something far more revealing. A series of entries titled Project T. I'll give you a highlight reel. T says he'll leave her after Q2. I believe him this time. I need to be smart. Don't link any hotels to work card. Can't let Rob know until bonus clears. I deserve this. I've earned it. Delusional? Sure. But also damning. I packaged the notes into a neat little PDF, complete with timestamps and metadata. Then, using an anonymous email account, I sent it to 3 places. The RKS Ethics Board, a finance journalist I knew from college, and, just for good measure, Angela Marlowe, Trent's wife. Angela responded in under 10 minutes. Her email was a single line. I'll handle the rest. And oh, did she? 3 days later, the story broke. Not on some obscure blog. On the front page of a national business news site. Scandal at RKS Advisory. Ethics complaint filed against 2 senior executives for fraud, abuse of travel funds. It was clean, journalistic, with just the right amount of vinegar. The article quoted internal sources, described a culture of deception, and even mentioned an alleged romantic entanglement involving misuse of company assets. Names weren't officially listed, but anyone with half a brain knew who it was about. That same morning, Clara's photo vanished from the firm's website. By lunch, so did Trent's. It was over. Or so I thought. Because later that night, Clara came back. No text. No warning. Just the sound of her car in the driveway, and the front door unlocking like this was still her home. I found her in the living room, standing in the middle of the rug like she wasn't sure if it was quicksand or solid ground. She looked worse than before. Makeup smudged, hair frayed, wearing the same suit she'd worn to our wedding anniversary dinner 2 years ago. That felt symbolic. I lost everything, she said, voice flat. Trent's gone. The board iced me out. Even HR won't answer my calls. I didn't move. She laughed, a sharp, humorless sound. And your little stunt? It's gonna haunt me forever. I sipped my drink. Good. She blinked. That's all you have to say? I set my glass down, walked over, looked her right in the eyes. You broke us a long time ago, Clara. You just didn't notice until someone else started sweeping up the pieces. Her lips trembled, not crying, just cracking. Then she asked something I'll never forget. Can we just talk? One last time. I thought about it. And then I nodded. Not for closure, not for peace, but because I wanted to watch her squirm through every second of honesty she thought she could handle. Fine, I said. Let's talk. And oh boy, we did. We sat across from each other in the living room, her in the armchair, me on the couch, like strangers on a delayed flight, forced into proximity but desperate to be anywhere else. Clara held her knees close like she was trying to make herself smaller. I had no such urge. It was funny, really. For a woman who built a career on presentations and polished delivery, she looked like someone who hadn't spoken out loud in days. She finally opened with, "You really hate me." "No," I said calmly. "If I hated you, I wouldn't have gone to this much trouble." She blinked, confused. "What's that supposed to mean?" "It means you were worth the time, Clara. Not because I loved you. Not anymore. But because you made a fool of me, and you were arrogant enough to think I wouldn't notice." Her jaw tensed. She shifted uncomfortably. "I didn't plan to hurt you," she said, voice quiet. "Things just happened." That line. That stupid, cowardly line. "Right," I said. "Things just happened. Like you tripped and fell into another man's hotel room. Like he accidentally booked a couple's massage. Like your credit card just randomly paid for his Uber from the airport." "Rob, I know you're angry, but..." I raised a hand. "Don't do that. Don't reduce what I'm feeling to just anger. This isn't some emotional tantrum. I'm not broken. I'm not begging. I'm clear." Her mouth opened, then shut again. I leaned forward, elbows on knees. "You know what always got me? You're smart. Scary smart. You can forecast financial trends 3 quarters out. You can dissect a market strategy in a single afternoon. But you couldn't see me. Not the version you dressed up for dinner parties. The real me. The one who noticed you stopped drinking the wine you used to love. The one who picked up that your travel bag was always packed before I even knew you had a trip." She didn't speak. She didn't even blink. "I used to wonder when it started," I went on. "When you started fading out of our life and into his. Was it that trip to Denver? Or Chicago? Maybe it doesn't matter. What matters is, you never looked back." She was still. Absolutely still. "I wasn't enough for you," I said. "And instead of telling me, you kept one foot in this house while your heart went joyriding across North America." Clara finally broke the silence. "I did love you, Rob. Maybe not the right way, maybe not the whole time, but I did. Too bad you loved your ambition more." That landed. Her face tightened. Her eyes welled, not from guilt, but from realizing she wasn't in control anymore. This wasn't her narrative to spin. Not in a meeting room. Not in a relationship. Not here. I stood up. "I'm not here to give you a second chance. I'm not here to understand you. I've already done that. And now I want you to leave." She looked stunned, like she didn't expect this to be final. "I just thought," she said, faltering, "maybe we could start over." Somehow, I tilted my head. "Start over? Clara, you don't get to reset a burned bridge. You don't get to rebuild something after you've dynamited the foundation. What you get is the rest of your life to reflect." "I lost everything," she repeated. "My job. My reputation. Trent. Trent was never yours." I snapped, sharper than I meant to be. "He was a symptom. Just like your job. Just like this image you curated." She looked at me like I'd stabbed her. "Do you know what's really tragic?" I asked. "You had someone who loved you at your most boring. Your most normal. I loved grocery shopping you. Pajama you. Sunday morning, no makeup you. And you traded all that for a LinkedIn headline and a guy who calls his boat Synergy." She cracked a smile, but it died quickly. "I don't even know who I am anymore," she said, her voice a whisper. "That makes 2 of us," I said. "But only one of us gets to stay here." She swallowed hard, nodded, then stood. As she turned to leave, I added one last thing. "By the way, Angela sends her regards." Clara froze. "She's filed a formal ethics complaint." with evidence. It's under review. You won't be getting a quiet resignation. You're going to be the case study in every HR module for the next decade. Clara didn't say a word. She left. Not dramatically. No slam of the door. Just a soft click, like the final period on a sentence she'd rewritten one too many times. I sat back down, checked my email, saw a message from Angela. Review board accepted everything. Thanks for the receipts. I've moved out. Divorce in progress. Let's have coffee sometime. Purely strategic, of course. I smiled. Not because I wanted revenge. Not anymore. That part was done. This was something else. Something colder. Better. It was justice, served not hot or cold, but calculated. Like Clara had always prided herself on being. Turns out, I'm good at strategy too. And unlike her, I finish what I start. The strange thing about finality is how quiet it is. I thought it would feel louder. I thought I'd feel triumphant, or at least satisfied, some cinematic swell of strings playing in my head as the credits rolled. But no, it just felt like waking up after a long, bad dream in a bed you finally changed the sheets on. Clara didn't come back after that night. I half expected her to. People like her don't usually exit stage left without one last curtain call. But she never did. No tearful follow-ups. No voicemails. No handwritten apologies slid under the door. Just gone. And for the first time in years, the house stopped holding its breath. A week passed. Then two. The divorce paperwork moved swiftly, helped along by the mountain of digital receipts and the abandonment of mutual trust clause I'd had amended in the prenup. She tried to negotiate through her lawyer. Of course she did. But even her representation seemed tired, like they knew this was just cleanup duty after a corporate oil spill. I got the house. I got the car. I got full ownership of the joint investments, since most of the capital came from my pre-marriage assets anyway. Clara got what she earned, a severance package from RKS that barely covered her legal fees, and a LinkedIn profile that might as well have been branded with a scarlet letter. Oh, and Trent? He didn't just get dumped. He got dropped. After Angela filed her complaint, which included emails, financial records, and screenshots of hotel confirmations with matching timestamps, Trent's board gave him the boot. Not in public, of course. No, they let him resign for personal reasons after a brief leave of absence. Corporate speak for, we don't want to deal with the press, but you're dead to us. Word on the grapevine was Angela took him for half of everything, including his precious boat. I don't know if she renamed it, but I like to imagine she christened it something poetic. Accountability, maybe. I spent a lot of time in the weeks that followed just recalibrating, not grieving. I'd already done that during the slow rot of our last year together. No, this was more like detox. No more fake smiles at company dinners. No more pretending I didn't notice when Clara got delayed on trips that were never on the calendar. No more calculating silence. I found an old hobby again, woodworking. Picked up a few rough planks from the hardware store and built a new coffee table. Stained it dark. Sanded it until the grain shone through. It's funny how creating something with your hands, something real, can make you feel grounded in a way no job title or power couple illusion ever could. And then came the twist. It was a Tuesday afternoon, about a month post-Billboard, when a small white envelope showed up in the mail. No return address. Just my name, handwritten. Curious, I opened it. Inside was a card. Simple, blank inside except for a note scrawled in Clara's familiar, looping script. You were right. About everything. I'm sorry it took this much to learn. No signature. No apology beyond that. Just silence wrapped in cardstock. I read it once. Then again. Then I burned it. Because here's the thing no one tells you about closure. Sometimes, it doesn't come with a bow. Sometimes it doesn't come at all. And sometimes, you build it yourself out of receipts, evidence, and cold, calculated payback. A few days later, Angela called me. Not emailed. Called. We hadn't spoken directly since she forwarded me the complaint summary she submitted to RKS. Thought you might like to know, she said, in that perfectly clipped, powerful tone of hers. Trent tried to contact me. Let me guess, I said. He suddenly found Jesus and regrets everything? Worse, she replied. He wanted to pitch a rebranding strategy. For both of us. Said we could use the scandal to write a book. I actually laughed out loud. She laughed too. I told him he can write one alone. From a cardboard box. Then she paused. You holding up okay? I'm doing better, I said. You? Let's just say it feels good to remind powerful men that consequences aren't theoretical. There was a quiet moment. Then she added, "Ever find yourself in Midtown, let me know. I still owe you that coffee. Or a drink." Strategic, of course. Of course. We didn't make plans. We didn't need to. Just the idea, the acknowledgement, was enough. It's strange how one betrayal can ripple through a dozen lives. But it's even stranger how exposing the truth can build something new. Not necessarily something romantic, just something honest. The last loose end came when Marcus, my Billboard guy, texted me out of the blue. "Marcus, client just asked me who made those designs. Said they were clean, impactful, and emotionally devastating. Want me to send them your info?" I smiled. Me? Sure. Just don't tell them the emotional devastation part was the goal. So yeah, maybe there's something there. A new direction. A fresh start. Not built on lies. Not on manipulation. Just the clarity that comes after you stop being the victim and start becoming the architect. Because if Clara taught me anything, it's that strategy isn't about getting ahead. It's about knowing what to burn when you finally decide to stop following the rules. And me? I've got matches for days. Subscribe to the channel